So you get the superpowers. These superpowers I'm talking about aren't like flying through the air or radiating X-ray vision or melting steel with your eyes, because those things don't matter or aren't important, because what good are those superpowers? Not being invaded by aliens and having other super people fighting us. The real problem we have in America today is health tragedies, with people dying of heart attacks and strokes, getting demented, getting into kidney failure, having leg amputations, going blind, living in nursing homes that don't take care of themselves, and having an explosion in cancer and autoimmune conditions that's wiping people's lives and making living tragic, right? It doesn't have to happen. We can wipe out heart attacks and strokes and dementia. We can win the war on cancer right now. And nutritional science has made the advances where we can live to be 100 years old in that 95 to 105 year range in fantastic health with our full mental and physical faculties intact. And who doesn't want to take advantage of that? And we can make it taste incredible. It'd be crazy not to. So this is about giving us those most important powers to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first, and then get a tremendous reward in life for being able to reach out and help others. That's what's so wonderful about what you guys are doing here. And I'm so excited to have so many friends and people I care about who live right here in this area. And like Kerry said, I was here when I was a child, well, not a child, but between I was 14 to 17 years old. I was here in Detroit training at the Detroit Skating Club because my coach, Ron Ludington, was once coached Olympic athletes right here in Detroit in those days. So I come to Detroit. You know, when I came to Detroit back in, I don't know when it was, 1968, 1970, 1967, around those years, I came to Detroit. My mother came with us. My sister was 5 years younger, and I think we were here around Thanksgiving time. And my mother was shopping in a supermarket here in Detroit, and somebody just came up to her in the supermarket and started talking to her. And she said, "Oh, we're just here, you know, traveling because my kids are getting coached here in Detroit by the skating here." And this person in the supermarket invited us to her home for Thanksgiving dinner right here in Detroit. A person she never met, just a stranger. And we met a lot of warm, wonderful people here back then in those days. Can you imagine? Anyway, so let's get on with this lecture here. Because, you know, this is critical. I mean, we have to be in the right neighborhood. Like, let me ask you a question. How many of you people have been either stabbed by a knife or have your family members stabbed by a knife? Raise your hand. Oh, probably anybody. Anybody. One person. How about shot by a bullet? You know, how about shot by a bullet? Raise your hand. Or I got it. Or like stepped on a landmine and have your same person has been stabbed by a knife? Wow. Well, I guess I shouldn't be talking about those things. Well, let me ask, how about this? How many of you people have either your family members or somebody you know close to you has either had cancer or a heart attack or a stroke? Raise your hand. Whoa. You know, that's a neighborhood you've got to get out of right away. That's where we're seeing this death and this tragedy happening to people, knocking people off, right? Isn't this incredible? Unbelievable. Because it doesn't have to happen. Why don't we stop it? We got to stop it, and you all have to be part of this, right? Everybody's got to do their part and be part of this for stopping this. Can't happen anymore, because it doesn't have to happen. You know what the most growing industry in America is? One of the most growing industries? Is the people that are now in nursing homes before the age of 50, unable to care for themselves, having strokes and having brain damage occurring in younger ages. We're seeing strokes at younger ages now. You know, and what we eat doesn't just affect our physical health. Because I know a lot of people know we have a growing epidemic of autism, learning disabilities, and how food affects intelligence and takes away people's ability to achieve the American dream. The food that you eat doesn't just kill yourself, it kills your children. What you eat now when childbearing ages can affect your offspring's health. But what people don't realize is that 1 in 5 Americans are now mentally ill. 100 years ago, it was 1 in 100 Americans. Now it's 1 in 5. We're eating ourselves to death. We're destroying our population with food. We have to stop it. All right, let's get started with this lecture. Ready to get going here?
Yes.
Go on to the information you need to know to explain and articulate this to other people. Let's get started. So food, let me give you these basics. It's important to understand the basics and to really have a thorough understanding. It's not just about being vegan or plant-based. You have to be experts in nutritional science to really protect against these diseases. Okay, the first thing is that food gives us nutrients, two types of nutrients. The first type of nutrients we get from food are called macronutrients. The word macro means big. And macronutrients contain calories, fat, carbohydrate, and protein. And here's what you have to know about this, very critical, is that the more macronutrients you eat, the shorter you live. And Americans eat almost double the amount of macronutrients the human body needs to survive and to be in good health. What if you just ate 25 to 50 calories a day too much? Just a little bit overshot your nutrient needs of what you need to maintain your perfect weight. Well, 30 calories times 365 days a year, that comes out to almost 3 pounds a year. That's like in 10 years, you just gained 30 pounds. You just took 20 years off your life, just from overshooting your calories by a little bit. Wow. What if you undershot and just ate a little less calories than scientists would determine that you would need to maintain your perfect weight? Now what I'm saying here, to be really clear, is that being overweight is a major risk factor for cancer and dementia, and depression for that matter. And you can't have a healthy person that's overweight, because when you have extra fat on your body, the fat secretes angiogenesis promoters, and the angiogenesis means to promote the growth of blood vessels, to allow fat to grow, and it permissibly allows cancer to grow. So cancer cells secrete angiogenesis-promoting hormones as well. So fat contributes to the cellular replication leading to cancer. It makes your body insulin resistant, so now you have to produce more insulin in response to a mango or a piece of oatmeal or a bowl of oatmeal. In other words, you produce more insulin in response to a carbohydrate load. And insulin is an angiogenesis promoter, promotes cellular replication, promotes aging of the brain, promotes cancer. So we want people to be in an ideal weight. But I'm pretty much close to an ideal weight. I mean, you want males to be below 15% of calories from fat on their body, and you want females to be below 25% of calories from fat on their body. But what if I just undershot my calorie needs? Like 25 calories a day, 50 calories a day, just ate a little, too little each day. Then what would happen to me? Would I become anorexic? Would my bones become weaker? Would I shrink away to nothing? What would happen? What? Nothing. Well, not nothing. Something very important would happen. My body would maintain the same weight because I'm already at my ideal weight based on the exercise I do and the muscle tissue I have. I'm already there. But my body wouldn't lose weight because it would slow down its metabolism by lowering my body temperature, lowering my thyroid a little bit. My respiratory quotient would decrease a bit, meaning the calories lost through breathing would go down. My body would do what it needed to do to maintain my muscle mass. It wants to protect my musculoskeletal mass, and it will slow down the metabolism to do so. But you see that it's moderately slowing down that metabolism is what slows the aging process. It's what stops the excessive mobilization of calcium onto the bones and the blood vessels, causing osteoporosis and weakening the muscles with aging. My muscles and bones are more stable now. I'll maintain my strength into my later years. Now the 50-year-old monkey looks like a 15-year-old monkey because we slow down the metabolic rate. You see, because most Americans, what are they trying to do? They're trying to speed up the metabolic rate so they can eat more food and not get fat. That's called a fad diet. That's the secret to accelerating the aging process and dying young, trying to speed up your metabolic rate so you can eat more food. What we want to do to live a long life is to slow down the metabolic rate so we can eat less food and not get too thin. Did you follow that? A completely different perspective. Everybody out there that is totally confused, every diet out there is all wrong, right? You need help? Okay. I can help you now. She couldn't handle me walking behind her. Too distracting. So here's the thing. Food gives us fat, carbohydrate, protein, but to be healthy, we have to eat less fat, less carbohydrate, and less protein. We have to not eat more calories than the body requires. And the way we comfortably eat less calories, the way we naturally desire less calories, is by having our diet choices have excellent content of micronutrients. So micronutrients are the non-caloric portions of food, like vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and phytochemicals. We need to have an excellent supply of that. So the first thing I'm teaching you today is the number one principle of long life, the first principle of a nutritarian diet. And I want you to be able to articulate this principle. I'll say it to you right now. You can write it down, you can put it in your own words, but I want you to understand this. The most important principle to establish longevity is to have a diet style with moderate caloric restriction in an environment of micronutrient excellence. That's it. You guys can go.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, I can. Let's say I would. Yes, I'm saying the first principle of the nutritarian diet, represented by my health equation, H equals N over C, means your healthy life expectancy, how long you're going to live, quality of your life, and how healthy you're going to be in your later years, is proportional to your micronutrient per calorie intake in life. That means you have to seek out foods that are high in nutrients and eat less foods that are low in nutrients. The more empty calorie foods you eat, the shorter your lifespan. But I'm saying something else here. I'm saying that as you eat a diet with a higher micronutrient density, it naturally suppresses your appetite, so you no longer are desirous of eating excessive calories. The way you comfortably eat the calories, the amount of food you require and desire, and be the right amount, is by eating a diet that's giving you all the nutrients you need. Did you follow that? Now I'll repeat that again for you. I'll repeat what I said before, okay? You want me to repeat it one more time? It is that the most important principle that determines your healthy life expectancy is to eat a diet that's moderately caloric restricted in an environment of micronutrient excellence. Okay? So H equals N over C just represents that mathematically, right? The American diet is the opposite of that, because we eat a diet with about 55% of calories from processed foods like pasta, white bread, salad oil, mayonnaise, donuts, cookies, crackers, rice cakes, breakfast bars, chips, candy, soft drinks. How do these people put soft drinks in their body? How do you take this stuff? It's chemical, it's garbage, but it shortens your life. Now what I'm saying to you, every bite of that bagel, every piece of that pizza, every French fry you eat, every potato chip you eat is shortening your life. Significantly. Moderate consumption doesn't shorten your life moderately, it shortens your life tremendously. One serving of commercial French fries a week, just one serving a week, has been linked to a 26% increased risk of developing breast cancer. One serving a week. When you cook foods fried in oil, especially fried in a commercial fast food establishment, where the oil's been heated up all day long, those oils are rancid, compounds are carcinogenic. Even working in the fast food restaurant, not even eating any of the food, just breathing and inhaling in the fumes from the fryers causes cancer. You follow that? And then, we don't even put this chemicalized, nutritionless food in our bodies, empty calories. But then we eat another 35% of calories of animal products. And animal products do not contain phytochemicals and antioxidants. They have an insignificant micronutrient load. Fruits and vegetables have 20 to 50 times as much vitamins and minerals as an animal products per calorie. What I'm saying to you right now to start out this lecture is I'm saying to you a piece of chicken is like a bagel. Why am I saying a piece of chicken is like a bagel? What have you heard so far? Explain to me, give me back why I'm saying a piece of chicken is like a bagel. Right. No significant nutrient. They're both rich sources of macronutrients, but no significant load of micronutrients. That's the formula for a shortened lifespan. This diet with less than 10% of calories from produce, and of course they consider, the government keeps track of food, half of the produce consumed in America are white potato products like French fries and chips are counted in there, and ketchup are counted in there. We actually eat just less than 5% of calories from colorful produce. But this diet couldn't be better designed to cause an epidemic of cancer and heart attack had it been designed by ISIS. I said that joke on public television, except I said, this diet couldn't be better designed had it been sent over by Al-Qaeda, but they cut it out. They cut it out of the show, and they instead have me saying, they dubbed in, the stupidest thing, I'm not telling you this now, so you don't blame me for the stupid joke, because it says on public television, this diet's been designed by Darth Vader. I did not say that joke. Don't blame me for that, it wasn't me, I didn't say that. I said Al-Qaeda, they changed it to Darth Vader. Can you believe that? Would you be mad if it happened to you? But let me say one thing, just while you're laughing at me, is that it's good to smile and laugh. It makes you live longer. That's great. And the joke doesn't have to be funny. That's right, so it works anyway. Just make you live a year longer. But this is really serious stuff, right? This is a serious problem that we have that's going on right now, right? Because what we eat affects our brain. 2 servings of commercial baked goods a week, just 2 servings a week, like 1 croissant and 1 chocolate chip cookie, 51% increase in developing depression, major depression, just 2 servings a week. Not only dummies down our children. We eat those foods before pregnancy. Now we have children who develop cancer and brain tumors. Cancer and brain tumors linked to the lack of green vegetables in the diet and the consumption of processed meats with nitrosamino compounds and heterocyclic amines and barbecue, all the stuff people eat. It affects their genes that you pass on to future generations, even when you eat these foods before you got pregnant. So to have you understand what's going on here, let's put a buffet together. We're going to put this buffet right behind me. Everybody in this room is going to come up to the buffet and eat some beautiful food. On this side of the room, before you get to the buffet to fill up your plates, I'm going to give you an apple while you wait in line. You know what's going to happen? As the scientists calculate how much you put on your plate and how much you ate, they're going to figure out that overall you ate 65 calories less on the buffet because I gave you that 65 calorie to apple to eat on your way to the buffet while you were in line. Because the 65 calorie apple had the effect to lessen your appetite by about 65 calories. Right? But on this side of the room, unfortunately for you guys, when you were waiting in line, instead of the apple, I gave you a tablespoon of olive oil at 120 calories a tablespoon. Now, when you went to the buffet and they measured how much food you took, how much food you ate on the buffet, they found that you didn't consume 120 calories less. You consumed the same amount as if people who didn't have any of the oil. Because the oil has no significant nutrients and no fiber, it doesn't take up space. It doesn't signal the appestat to turn itself down by 120 calories. So when you ate oil, you just had 120 calories too much. Not only that, if I took the oil, instead of giving you that tablespoon of olive oil and eat in line while you waited, it's I mixed it in with the food, like mixed it in the salad and the vegetable dish, and you didn't even know you were eating the extra 120 calories. Now you wouldn't have only had 120 calories extra, but the oil mixed with the foods would cause you to have eaten 100 calories excess on the average, and you would have taken an extra 200 calories compared to the people that had the apple. Did you follow that? 200 calories extra. When 30 calories a day extra would have taken 20 years off your life, you had 220 calories extra. The average American has got 500 calories extra a day, by the way. The most overweight, sickly population in the history of the human race. But if you, instead of that oil, if you took in something like walnuts, sesame seeds, pecans, pistachio nuts instead, you would have had 35 calories a tablespoon. But here's the thing. Because of the fibers, the sterols, the stanols, the bulk, the anthocyanins, and the phytochemicals in those nuts and seeds, you would have eaten less calories, but By 35 calories, 40 calories, it was in the food, right? But all the 35 calories in the nuts and seeds aren't absorbable. Some of those calories are biologically not available to the body because the stanols that bind the fat have our fat magnet, such a strong fat magnet, they suck out calories out of the body into the toilet bowl. So now you have more stool fat, more toilet bowl fat. The fat magnets in the nuts and seeds are so powerful that they actually suck fat out of the bloodstream from the villi into the digestive tract, sucking out oxidized LDL and saturated fat. So the fats that are now in the toilet bowl aren't really the same fats that were in the nut and seed to begin with. It takes bad fats out of the body. But because the nuts and seeds signal the appestat that you ate those calories, the 40 calories you ate, and you ate 40 calories less, but you didn't really get the full 40 calories into you from the nuts and seeds. So you're naturally consuming less calories than you actually felt you ate. The same thing when you eat beans, because beans have a large number of calories that are biologically not accessible to the body as well. Let's say I had beans with my meal, 200 calories of beans. I would have felt like I ate 200 calories, the appetite would be ratcheted down by 200 calories. I would eat 200 calories less than everything else. I feel like I'm full. All afternoon I wouldn't be hungry because I had those beans and the nuts, and I'd be going without food the whole day from all those calories ate from the beans, but all those 200 calories didn't come into the body. Because beans not only have the most slowly digestible starches, but they have the most resistant starch of all carbohydrates. Which means these resistant starches are resistant to enzymatic degradation. They're not digested by digestive enzymes. Instead, they're fermented by bacteria. And the body's bacteria change those carbohydrates into fat. Short-chain fatty acids, predominantly butyrate, which is an anti-inflammatory fat with anti-cancer effects and anti-diabetic effects. But because the bacteria turn the starch into beans, into fat, so far down in the digestive tract, towards the distal portion of the small intestines and the proximal portion of the large intestines, because it happens so far down, you lose those fats. They can't be absorbed, so they pass through you into the toilet bowl. 90% of those fats are lost and go right into the toilet bowl with the fat from the nuts and seeds. Do you hear what I'm saying right now? Are you getting the implications of this? Because now you felt like you ate those 200 calories, you ratcheted down your appetite by 200 calories, but you didn't absorb 200 calories. You're undershooting your caloric because you feel like you ate the right amount of food, but you took in so much less calories. The way you comfortably eat less calories is by eating these healthy foods because you're not hungry for more food anymore, and you slightly undershoot your metabolic rate so you keep naturally fit. And these foods have angiogenesis inhibitors in them. These angiogenesis inhibitors don't let fat be stored easily on the body when you're eating your greens and your beans and your onions and mushrooms. These foods say, no way, Jose, I'm not letting you put fat on your body. They inhibit the storage of fat. They say, no way, Jose, I'm not letting you put cancer on your body. By the way, they're bilingual. They say it in Spanish, no way, Jose. It's so good to have a bunch of people who haven't heard my jokes before. And the opposite is true. These fast foods, these rapidly digestible carbohydrates that flood the body with calories, they affect the brain. Right? They cause dopamine signaling to be released in the brain. They give you that high. They make you, over time, dopamine insensitive, and now you constantly want brain stimulation. You want a couple of potato chips, one little thing of French fries, and a soda is not enough. You need a burger, you need a big gulp, and you need a double thing of French fries to get the same high. You've got to get the extra dopamine. You've got to keep eating. It makes you overeat. It makes you into a food addict. And when you're a food addict, it turns you very oftenly into an alcoholic or a drug addict. And the link between candy and fast food and junk food and drug use is very powerful association here. The link between drug abuse and crime and feeding candy and junk food and fast food in childhood is better than poverty and drug abuse, better than bad parenting, lack of parenting, abusive parenting, living without parents, living in social isolation. The most powerful link is a link between junk food and candy and later lifetime of drug abuse and any other correlation. This is really important. It's important we put on that oxygen mask and we are examples of excellent health for our community. It's important that you don't become a person who your children have to take care of you the rest of their life because you didn't take care of your health. You have an obligation to take good care of your health. And nobody's going to listen to you, and you're not going to be an influential person. Being able to really give people kindness and love, goodwill, and feel that tremendous satisfaction to be useful to your community on any field if they don't respect you and you don't really live a life that's respectable. And that means taking good care of your health. Okay, so you're understanding the first principle of the Nutritarian diet now? I can go on to the second principle. The second principle is to live a long life and be in great health. Your diet has to be hormonally favorable. That means that excess hormones shorten lifespan and create cancer, especially excess hormones like estrogen and insulin and IGF-1. Welcome back. That's right. An extra fat on your body produces estrogen. And if you're overweight, you're producing too much estrogen, increasing the risk of prostate cancer and breast cancer. Because excess estrogen increases the risk of prostate and breast cancer. And if you have extra fat on your body, that fat is making you insulin resistant, and you're producing excess insulin from every food you eat if you're overweight. So, what does it mean? Let's look at this for a minute. Because we're talking now about insulin and IGF-1, and insulin raises in the bloodstream in response to the glycemic load of a food. And what does the word glycemic load mean? Does anybody know? Right. It means it's the rate at which sugar enters the bloodstream. In other words, I can have those 200 calories from beans, but beans are an example of a food with a very low glycemic load because they have these slowly digestible carbohydrates that are absorbed into the bloodstream over a 3-hour period after you ate the beans. They're coming into the bloodstream about 1 calorie per minute. If the calories come in slowly, the body can preferentially burn it for energy to live on and not store it as fat. When you eat white bread or oil, the calories rush into the bloodstream at like 20 to 50 calories a minute. And the body has to store it as fat, and it can't burn off calories at 50 calories a minute. A food that has a high glycemic load is not just, it doesn't just mean it's rich in carbohydrate, it means the carbohydrates were absorbed into the bloodstream very rapidly. Right? When you eat oil, like the olive oil, the flaxseed oil, the coconut oil, whatever kind of oil you use, your favorite oil, those oils enter the bloodstream very rapidly. They say from the lips to the hips, 5 minutes. They're absorbed so rapidly they have to be stored away, and they're stored away without transforming them into a different compounds. You can do a biopsy of your waste and all the fat hanging down. You can say, you could look under the electron microscope. Oh, that was pork fat. Oh, that was olive oil. Oh, there's some of those dairy fat right there. Just absorb right into the bloodstream. Whereas if you had those fats from nuts and seeds absorbed also at 1 calorie per minute, does the body store them as fat? No, it burns them off for energy. You don't even store the omega-6 fats because it's absorbed so slowly you're able to preferentially burn them for energy, keeping your omega-6, omega-3 ratio in your tissues favorable because you can preferentially burn the omega-6 fat off the body instead of storing them as fat. Because you can consume it as oil. So the word glycemic load, as you can see on the slide, has to do with those rapidly absorbed calories, right? Those rapidly absorbed high glycemic load foods like white potato, white rice, white pasta, chocolate cake, which is white, just has the fake tan. I always say, right? I always say the whiter the bread, the sooner you're dead. Right, of course. You can't trust anything that's too white. Cocaine, cigarettes, all these things, white bread, or and then the moderate glycemic load foods, medium glycemic loads like corn, sweet potato with oats and mangoes and whole wheat. And of course, low glycemic load vegetation, plant foods, like lentils and beans and apples and green vegetables and peas and squashes and watermelon and oranges and nuts and seeds are very low glycemic load foods. They're absorbed very slowly. But of course, beans, look at this hierarchical scale. You got that word hierarchical? I can't even say it. This hierarchical scale of quality, we see beans are at the top because they have the highest nutrient density of all carbohydrates. They have the most anti-cancer compounds, like inositol pentacus phosphate. And you know that's powerful anti-cancer stuff because it's 26 letters long, inositol pentacus phosphate. And they're richest in slowly digestible carbohydrates. They're highest in fiber, and they're highest in resistant starch. Right, those foods on top of the highest resistant starch, including all types of beans and lentils and chickpeas, and even peas are high in resistant starch and high in those protect anti-cancer nutrients. But because these resistant starches are broken down by bacteria, they fuel the growth of healthy bacteria in the digestive tract. And the beans and greens in particular fuel the growth of these healthy bacteria that cause the thicken the adherent biofilm on the villi that line the small intestines. Your small intestines have these finger-like projections that make up the wall of the small intestines, and they're lined by bacteria, 10 times as many bacteria in the digestive tract, or there are cells in the entire body. And you thicken and develop the most favorable bacteria in the gut when you eat a diet that has rich in these 4 foods, these 2 cooked foods and these 2 raw foods, or these 2 raw foods and these 2 cooked foods. What do you think these 2 cooked foods and 2 raw foods are? Well, the 2 raw foods are raw green vegetables like kale and lettuce and bok choy and stuff like that, and cabbage, arugula, in your salad, and the other raw food are onions and scallions. Raw onion or scallion, of course. And the 2 cooked foods are the most powerful increase in the microbiome are cooked beans and cooked mushrooms. That's right. You got the 4 foods: beans and mushrooms, greens and scallion. Right. So here's what happens. This thickened microbiome with all the beneficial bacteria now slows the glycemic effect of everything you ate. So when you had that oatmeal with a mango for breakfast, the next day the glycemic effect of that mango or that oatmeal was reduced. The sugars were absorbed very slowly because you regularly consume your beans and your greens and your onions and your mushrooms. Are you following this? The moderate glycemic load foods become low glycemic load because your microbiome slows the absorption of glucose. Scientists call that the second meal effect. But it's not the second meal, it's any meal you eat if you're a regular bean eater. Following us? That's why people that don't eat beans regularly, they're not used to building up the bacteria that the body utilizes to digest the beans. If you eat beans all the time, every single day, you don't produce too much gas anymore from eating the beans, unfortunately. Oh, you got that joke. You guys must think like I think. So obviously what I'm saying here is beans have lots of reasons why they're so protective. So much so that in the Women's Nurses Health Study, we follow these thousands of women, tens of thousands of women for 25 years, that just people who ate beans twice a week had 24% low risk of breast cancer. Just twice a week. It's just from the beans, the most protective food against cancer. And of course, a high glycemic diet with more white bread, sugar, maple syrup, honey, French fries, all these foods, of course, increase breast cancer rates by tremendous amounts, by 87%. You could get plenty of breast cancer as a vegan, eating all these high glycemic by eating a junk food, like you're a junk food vegan diet. What do you call that? A vegetarian or something like that. And then the other hormone that's related to insulin, IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1. Sure, that's raised from the consumption of sugar, but what raises IGF-1 more powerfully than sugar is animal protein, particularly dairy products. You see, because most Americans have very high levels of IGF-1, like 200 to 250. Whereas vegans generally run like between 125 and 150, much lower. Lower levels of IGF-1 are linked to slowing of the aging process. Remember I said to you earlier, the only thing proven to radically extend lifespan in all species of animals? What did I say that? Did I say that earlier? The only thing ever been proven to radically extend lifespan is lower caloric intake in an environment of nutritional excellence, of micronutrient excellence. Right? One of the mechanisms that extends lifespan of these animals is by when you have moderate caloric restriction, you have lower IGF-1 production. They put men and women in the biosphere for the scientific experiment to see if they could lower the hormones to be low, like the animals lower their hormones to slow the aging process. It didn't work with humans. It didn't work in the biosphere. Their IGF-1s did not drop down as they reduced their calories by 30%. The IGF-1 didn't drop because they were still eating 30% of calories from animal products. Reducing your caloric consumption while still consuming all those animal products doesn't work to slow the aging process because the proteins are too high and the animal protein pushes IGF-1 to unfavorable levels to speed up the aging process and to make you age faster. It's lower levels of IGF-1 that protect the brain from aging and protect the body from aging and protect the kidney from aging, protect the tissues. Are you following this now? And the tissues make you have to have moderate caloric restriction at the same time as you moderate your consumption of animal protein. Excessive animal protein pushes IGF-1 into unfavorable levels. Take a look here at how IGF-1 is lifted up by animal protein in particular, especially dairy products. That's why the countries that have the most dairy consumption, always like Scandinavian countries, like Norway and Denmark and Sweden and the US, that's why these countries have the most breast cancer, most ovarian cancer. They have the most dairy consumption for IGF-1. And IGF-1, prostate cancer is also very sensitive to IGF-1. It's why skim milk is more prostate cancer promoting than whole milk. Because you take the fat out, you concentrate the protein in the milk more, and especially those proteins that make for rapid growth in an young cow. I don't recommend cow's milk. I much prefer alligator milk. Chicken milk. You just take the chicken and put it in the Vitamix with a date, a little vanilla, and you just whip it up. Not raw chicken, of course. Too much salmonella. But hold on a second here. Let's get back to the serious thing, the serious nature of this conversation. How come beans are very high in protein? About 30% protein. I already told you that some of the carbohydrate in beans are not absorbable, making the utilizable amount of protein in beans even a higher percent of total calories because it's taken by the carbohydrate and throwing it away anyway. And hemp seeds and sunflower seeds and green vegetables like broccoli is 40% protein. These foods have more protein or just as much protein as meat and burgers do. So why aren't these high protein plant foods IGF-1 promoting and lifespan shortening like the protein in the animal products? Here's the secret to a long life. Get more protein from these high protein whole plants and less from animal products. Change your protein, be a high protein plant diet by eating a lot of greens and beans and nuts and seeds. Why don't those foods raise IGF-1 because they're so rich in protein? Why? Money? No. Maybe it is, and I don't just get what you're saying, but anyway. I'll tell you what happens here. Your body makes complete proteins into the bloodstream as it needs to generate the amount of IGF-1 it needs for muscle development and good health. It'll make what it needs. It'll take the protein from plants and absorb them slowly over hours. To keep its IGF-1 in the most favorable range, it'll complete the protein as it needs, making more complete protein as it needs to make more complete protein. It'll control the rate at which the protein is made complete. And it can absorb it. It stores amino acids in the villi, in the interior lining of the villi, inside the soft interstitial tissue of the villi, but it also absorbs the bacteria. It can break down and absorb the bacteria as a source of protein to make your further complete proteins, and it can even absorb epithelial cells that slough off the lining of the epithelial. In other words, part of the meat from your own body. The body eats part of itself up when it digests food, too. So the body has the ability to make plant proteins that are not as high as biologically complete into biologically complete proteins to make the hormones it needs. But it'll make the exact amount of hormones it needs. When you take an animal protein, you're overshooting so much protein floods the bloodstream all at once that you produce excessive amounts of these hormones that produce too much growth, that promote cancerous growth and excessive cellular replication. What does that 5 mean?
5 minutes.
No. I'm just starting here. What time is it? What time is it? It's 5 to 4. I'm going to go to 5 to 4:15, and then I'll take some questions.
Yeah.
I was told that's okay because they know there's nobody at me. Only got a third of the way through. I got 5 minutes left. I better speak faster. You must be slowing me down. All right, here's the thing. We give more credence to studies that involve thousands of people that go on for decades and look at hard endpoints like death. Like here's a study on 6,000 people followed for 18 years, and those put in a higher protein diet. The higher amount of protein was 30% of calories of protein. The higher amount of protein was less than what Americans eat, compared to the lower amount, was 10% or less, showed a 4-fold increase in cancer death over that 18-year period. Let me say that one more time. 50 to 65-year-olds, 50 to 65 when they began, followed for 18 years, 6,000 of them, 4-fold increased cancer death, comparing higher protein compared to lower protein. Did you get that? One study after another after another. I'm going to go through 2. I'm not going to go through the 10 studies on this, but here's what I'm saying. Every study that you went on for decades, not a year or two, but on for decades, using many thousands of people, this study had 44,000 women in it. And it showed for every one scale upward, in other words, from 1 to 20, 20 was like an Atkins diet with lots of apple products, like a paleo diet. 1 was a complete vegan diet. And for every point, followed for over the an average of 24 years, as they went up for 1 point up of increasing the animal protein, heart attack rates went up by 5%, meaning a 60% increased risk of cardiovascular death with people with a score above 16 compared to those with a score below 6. Was I speaking too fast? I'm so sorry. All I have to know is that these long-term studies increase the risk of both cancer death and heart attack death as the percent of calories from animal products increase in the diet. This is well established in the scientific literature and can't be denied. The foods with the strongest link to cancer, of course, are processed meats, red meats, barbecue, dairy products, fried foods, and those white foods that are high glycemic carbohydrates. Remember I said to you about 20 minutes ago? I said, why is a piece of chicken like a bagel? And you guys said to me, somebody said, because neither one had a significant micronutrient load. But there's another reason why a piece of chicken is like a bagel. What's the other reason why a piece of chicken is like a bagel? I just taught you in the last 5 minutes. They're both hormonally unfavorable, right? Because the chicken raises the IGF-1 too high, and the bagel raises the insulin too high. You get that now? See, remember the American diet pie I showed you, where half the American diet is processed carbohydrates and oils, and the other half is animal product? And that's why I'm saying it's designed by Al-Qaeda. It's if we really want to get cancer and kill people, here's what we have to do. We have to put a diet with a lot of insulin-producing carbohydrate with the meat, like a burger, like pizza, like macaroni and cheese, like a ham sandwich, which the American diet is perfectly designed to kill people. What? Fast food kills more people than smoking. In the food deserts, in areas of the country where there's a lack of access to produce, you have 10 times the risk of early life stroke. You have double the risk of heart attack, prostate cancer, breast cancer. All these things are up. And you have more of these horrible things happening to people, including affecting their intelligence and the ability to succeed in life and their ability to be happy. And you know, there's bigotry involved in this too. Because we learn in medical school that black Americans have such higher rates of death from these diseases. And it's as if their skin color had anything to do with it. I'm showing in my book, Fast Food Genocide, that after the Civil War, that black Americans achieved incredible educational achievements and had more centenarians, better health, more long life, more people living to be 100 years old when the white Southerners did, because they had more access to growing vegetables. What I'm saying is it looks like there's problems in that community because they have poor access to food, and especially eating junk food and convenience foods and fast food, and they're feeding people when they're young, destroying their opportunity to achieve the American dream. And we have to work as Americans to fix this. Part of our philosophy and part of the wonderful part of this country is this idea of equal opportunity for everybody, right? And giving people to have an opportunity of a good life. We have a great opportunity to have a happy and healthy life. That's why this information for all of us. That's why it's so critical. So much of our population are vulnerable in populations, not just in the food deserts in inner cities, but also in rural areas of the country where different people live and who also have bad health outcomes, like in the stroke belt down below the southern states, where you're eating on a lot of fried foods and unhealthy foods. Must be the alligators causing all those strokes. Anyway, we know that a diet that's rich in these anti-cancer foods is the secret to cancer protection. It's not, all foods don't have the same ability to fight off cancer. Scientific studies show that green vegetables have an incredible, powerful effect. More than 200 studies showing the more greens and the more raw vegetables and salads eaten by the population, the lower the rates of cancer. Every epidemiologic study shows that same thing. More raw vegetables, less cancer. The GBOMS acronym stands for these foods that have been shown to have powerful, each one of them, powerful anti-cancer effects. Greens, beans. What happened over there? Oh, I hit the wrong button on this thing. Okay. Is it back on? My finger hit the wrong button. Shut it off. Greens, working. Beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. Right? I talked about seeds. Talked about mushrooms, right? Studies show that even a little bit of mushrooms reduces breast cancer by 64%. Doesn't everybody have to know this? What about mushrooms with greens? Mushrooms with greens, even green tea, showed an 89% reduction of breast cancer in that study. Tremendous power to control these diseases. You got to face the facts. A healthy diet is more protective, more lifespan promoting than a diet that's less healthy. We can control our health destiny by what we eat. We can ratchet up our anti-cancer protective nature of our diet. We could ratchet down our desire to overeat calories by eating the right foods. You can't willy-nilly eat less calories. It's too uncomfortable. They tell you to breathe less oxygen. Instead of breathing at 14 breaths a minute, breathe at 11 breaths a minute. You're going to be gasping for air in an hour. You can't just tell people to eat less. You don't do a diet. You've got to feed them the right food so they don't want to overeat anymore. Did you follow that? More greens, more beans, more nuts and seeds means a dramatic low in the glycemic effect, a desire to overeat, and lowering cardiovascular parameters that, like high triglycerides, lowers LDL cholesterol. Right? These are irrefutable facts accepted by the World Health Organization. That more vegetables, beans, nuts, fresh fruits, these plant foods are linked to longer life, lower rates of cancer, excessive amounts of animal products are linked to increased risk of all these chronic diseases and cancers, and refined carbohydrates don't just cause obesity and diabetes. They also promote breast cancer and prostate cancer as well. Now, nutritarian diets have been tested in the scientific literature. Here's a recently published study on blood pressure with 443 participants. On the average, it lowered their blood pressure systolic blood pressure 26 points in 6 months. That's more than any study or any drug. Compared to the DASH diet, which lowers blood pressure too, the low-sodium DASH diet, which is most favored by all the media, has been shown to lower blood pressure 11 points. Nutritarian diet more than doubles the amount of blood pressure lowering, and people drop their excess weight. Here's a study on cholesterol lowering on a nutritarian diet, where the participants dropped their cholesterol by 33% in just 6 weeks. But here's the magic. It wiped out their oxidized LDL. The real LDL that causes heart disease, the dangerous LDL, was wiped out. Cholesterol-lowering drugs cause fatigue, they cause weight gain, they cause diabetes, they increase risk of breast cancer. You're not getting something for nothing. The best medical management for diabetes, for cholesterol, for blood pressure, only lowers risk of death by around 10 to 12%. Nutritional excellence takes away risk 100 times that amount. What are you told, though? Is the doctor telling you this? They're just giving you the drugs. Don't you be on these drugs the rest of life? And did they give you informed consent? Did they tell you that calcium channel blocker over a 10-year period can double the risk of breast cancer? Did they tell you the drugs cause cancer? Did they tell you that? I can go on and on about that, but I'm running out of time. Let me ask you a question. You. What's the food most closely linked with lower rates of dementia in humans? Take a guess. Greens! Right! You got it right. I just picked somebody who's sitting out of the audience. Let's try this again. This is fun. What's the food linked to lower rates of cancer in humans? Greens, right? How about heart attacks? Right. What do you think gorillas and chimpanzees, what do you think primates mostly eat? Greens. Right. The study's always going to show the same thing. It's going to fad. It's not going to come and go. It's always going to show, every study we do for the next 40 years, through our whole lifetime, is going to show the same thing. Right? The highest consumption of healthier foods, especially green vegetables. Green vegetables linked to elasticity in the blood vessels, maintaining the endothelial function, the stretching, the youthful effect of our blood vessels. The more vegetables we eat. And when you eat nuts and seeds with the vegetable meals, see, here's the thing. You don't want to eat most of your nuts and seeds with your oatmeal for breakfast. You don't want to eat your nuts and seeds as a snack. You want to eat most of your nuts and seeds with the meal that has the most vegetables, because vegetables are the most powerful anti-cancer foods, and by eating a little bit of nuts and seeds with that meal, it facilitates the absorption of the phytochemicals and antioxidants into the body, because a lot of these phytochemicals are fat-soluble. You need the fat to be absorbed. You can absorb 10 times as much of those anti-cancer carotenoids and phytochemicals when you get some nuts and seeds with that meal. Did you follow that? You don't want to waste your nuts and seeds snacking on them. Save them for your meal. That's why we make delicious salad dressings, by maybe mixing a little bit of like a blending an orange with some sesame seeds and cashews with some blood orange vinegar and a squeeze of lemon. That's why we take some tomato sauce. We mix it with like roasted garlic and a little bit of almonds and sunflower seeds and a fig or fig vinegar or balsamic vinegar. And we whip that up and make a delicious dressing out of it, because we're using the nuts and seeds as the dressing. We're making even the dressing healthy. That's the secret to a nutritarian diet. Making even the dressings healthy. You don't want to pour 3 tablespoons of fat-based oil on top of that. That would be, right, 3 tablespoons of oil would be 360 calories of dressing on 40 calories of vegetables. Forget the vegetables there. Just drink the dressing straight from the bottle. But here's the point I'm making, is that people who eat some nuts and seeds live a lot longer. Lower rates of cardiovascular death, lower rates of cardiac arrhythmia. In the Physicians' Health Study, they showed a 60% lower risk of sudden cardiac death in those physicians eating nuts and seeds 3 times a week or more. Every study showed the same thing on those eating nuts and seeds: lower cardiovascular death and lower cancer death. They restore and help prevent aging of the tissues. They suck out oxidized LDL into the toilet bowl, lowering cholesterol. The meta-analysis show that people who eat nuts and seeds regularly have a 40% lower rate of cardiovascular mortality and about a 30% decrease of all-cause mortality, which means cancer rates, which means that even the Prevalence study, even within the Adventist Health Study, those vegans who did not eat nuts and seeds did not live as long, as those vegans who ate nuts and seeds regularly, and even the flexitarians who ate some animal products who ate nuts and seeds lived longer than the vegans who were omitting nuts and seeds. You follow that? In spite of the poor advice some people get about this message, the results are overwhelmingly powerful here. Look at the comparison of, look at the prevalence study for a second, where people stopped eating so much butter and ate olive oil, cardiovascular deaths went down by 15%. Pretty good, olive oil is better than butter. But when they switched the olive oil to nuts and seeds, then the cardiovascular deaths went down by 60%. Not 15%. The goal is to reduce something, like the Mediterranean diet might lower risk a little bit. The goal is to wipe out heart attacks and strokes. Here's the Seventh-day Adventist study slide. I told you that, I'm going to skip over this. Now, one caveat here is that a vegan diet, which is most likely the most favorable way to slow aging and live a long, healthy life, could put people at risk of dementia and depression from not just B12 deficiency, but also from deficiency of DHA. It's very important that people are given the right information and not lied to or covered, that this is not covered up. There's too much irresponsible information being promoted by this community. The facts are that shrinkage of the brain leads to dementia. And low DHA levels and low omega-3 index detected in people's bloodstream are linked to lower brain volume and shrinkage of the brain with aging. And a large percentage of vegans who are not supplementing with the DHA can develop brain shrinkage with aging or depression, and especially postpartum depression. Here's a study on 166 vegans who were not supplementing, showing that about 64% were insufficient in DHA and about 27% were significantly deficient below the levels via which they would get brain shrinkage. And we found out, when we analyzed what the people were eating, that it wasn't related to poor oil consumption or lack of flaxseed or green vegetables or too much oil, that even people eating walnuts and green vegetables still could be deficient. What caused the deficiencies were genetic variation in conversion enzymes. In other words, we take the ALA from green vegetables and nuts and seeds and we can turn it into EPA and DHA, but our ability to make that conversion is very different from person to person. So we can't guarantee for everybody that your diet's going to give everybody enough. And to be cautious, and to be responsible, and to be conservative, to make sure that no vegan lives to be 95 years old. What good is to be living to be 95 or 105 years old if you don't have your full mental faculties intact? Have to make sure we do the right thing here. And we don't let our enthusiasm or our egos take us too far in the wrong direction. All right, salt, another major issue for early death. Because there are two types of strokes. There's embolic or ischemic strokes, and there's hemorrhagic strokes. And the hemorrhagic stroke is a broken blood vessel that bursts. And the more salt you eat in life, here look, the more salt you eat, see it says micro-hemorrhaging? When you eat a lot of salt, and when you regularly consume salt, it doesn't just raise your blood pressure. It doesn't just increase your death by raising your blood pressure. It also increases your death, because it weakens your blood vessels by causing microvascular hemorrhaging over the years. And now, in your 70s or 80s or 90s, you're more likely to have a hemorrhagic stroke from all that salt eating. There's more hemorrhagic strokes in people who are vegans, and there's more hemorrhagic strokes in Asian countries because they eat more salt and they don't have as much beef and cheese and bacon, and they have less atherosclerosis and lower cholesterol levels. Let me say that one more time. That as you eat a diet that causes heart disease and ischemic or embolic stroke, because it causes more atherosclerosis to develop, the thickening of the blood vessels, the diseased blood vessels become more resistant to hemorrhaging or breaking from high blood pressure due to hemorrhagic, due to the high blood pressure, because they become thickened with atherosclerosis. That the more burgers and cheeseburgers and bacon you eat means you lower the risk of hemorrhagic strokes. You can tolerate the salt without having a hemorrhage. Did you follow that?
Yeah.
We don't want a vegan to have a hemorrhagic stroke because they're eating so good, they think it's okay to still salt their food. Salt causes death. You can only compromise so far. And then you're just messing people up. It's not good to encourage people to work on unhealthy habits. Okay, we're almost done here. A study on diabetics following a vegetarian diet showed that these diabetics became non-diabetic in 6 months. 90% of them were non-diabetic, and their blood pressure dropped 27 points. The same as in the blood pressure study. Right? Their hemoglobin A1C normalized. They became non-diabetic. If you have a disease like asthma, or diabetes, or lupus, or psoriasis, don't treat it with cancer-causing drugs the rest of your life. Get rid of it. Get well again. The same diet style that maximally extends human life slows the aging process, yes, but also is most therapeutically effective at reversing disease. Don't be satisfied with staying sick. Here's a study on the vegetarian diet. The high nutrient, right? A whole food plant-based diet that's designed to be nutrient-rich. It's more directed towards nutritional excellence. And people lost more weight than any other study. The average person dropped 50 pounds in the first year, and they continued to lose weight as the study progressed over the years that followed. They didn't gain it back again. Let's look at some cases now. Some success stories before we finish this up. Ronnie is a fun guy, lives in Texas, lost 140 pounds back in 2008, saved his life. He had bypass surgery first. At over 300 pounds, he had bypass surgery. 4 years, he reclogged up again, had angioplasty. 6 weeks after that, reclogged up again on 10 different medications, sent home to die. Couldn't fix him. Googled reverse heart disease, followed my website, followed my program. Lost 140 pounds that first year. Heart disease went away. He's now doing great. Did great back 10 years ago. Still doing great today, of course. But look at these numbers. Look at his cholesterol. Look at his LDL cholesterol of 148 on Lipitor 40. And look at a year later, it's 75 on no medication. Look at his blood pressure on 3 blood pressure medications. Look at his blood pressure 1 year later on no medication. Look at Emily a year later. She lost her depression, her asthma, her allergies, feeling a lot better. But look at how much younger she looks. Look at her face. Look at her skin tone. Look at her wrinkles. It looks like her mother, right? A year later, look at her mother there on the right. These people are aging slow. Look at Jody, who got rid of her psoriasis after suffering in bed for 30 years with psoriatic arthritis on medications, finally get well and get rid of their psoriasis. Or John Pelikowski, was told that he needed an urgent angioplasty. This was back in 1994 when I was just a physician. There hadn't been any books yet. People in my neighborhood and all the doctors thought I was a quack. Now they know I'm a quack. But when you haven't written a book, they're like judging you. Now once you write books, then they know what you stand for, right? They know exactly what you are, what you stand for. But it was easier to convince people to follow my program today. Didn't have the studies and the literature back then. But anyway, John agreed to follow the program, right? And he got rid of his heart disease. He went back to his cardiologist 3 months later. We did the stress test, and the cardiologist says, "Well, I've never had my whole life of experience of being a doctor. Never seen anybody reverse heart disease. And you did it in 3 months. Your stress test improved." Never seen. Of course, the cardiologist never saw one person get well before. What they do is worthless. Well, not really worthless, because worthless means not good and not bad. It just means nothing. What they actually do is worse than worthless. Because these drugs give you the implicit and emotional, intellectual permission to keep living on the same diet that caused the problem to begin with. So of course, you're going to have advanced disease and die. Your problem. Most people on medications, cardiologists and medical doctors, die of heart disease. And they die of heart disease in proportion to the amount of medication they're taking. The more medication they're on, the higher the risk, the more likely they're going to die. But anyway, I'm bringing up John Pelikowski, of course, because been my patient for so many years. And as he gets older, does his blood pressure rise with aging? No, his blood pressure went down with aging and wanted to be followed the diet. He's now chopping wood and doing better in his late 90s than he was doing in his 70s back then. The point I'm making is not to do with aging. These diseases don't have to happen. You can't even get these people to die. And here's Steve and Tara. Here's an example, because you see what it says 226, 447? Tara weighed 226. She lost 80 pounds in the first year. Steve weighed 447. He lost 220 pounds that first year. It's not a typo. He lost 220 pounds in 1 year. Their daughter Chloe lost 32 pounds, got rid of her asthma and allergies. But he got rid of his sleep apnea and his diabetes and his high blood pressure and heart disease. She got rid of her osteoarthritis and her breathing difficulties and everything. But in any case, their life is, completely revamped. A new outlook on life. And you know who's, and a daughter got well too. You know who's really thrilled about this? Really incredibly thrilled? The dog. Of course. He finally's got room to sit in the car. And all these years of being in practice, all these 30 years of being a physician now, taking care of the natural and plant-based community for all these years, I've seen a lot of people with advanced cancer, and some of them have reversed their cancers completely. A lot of men with prostate cancer, their disappeared. But look at some of these cases. Pam had ovarian cancer that spread through her lungs. She had 4 liters of fluid in her lung of ovarian cancer, given 6 months to live. Now she is, 18 years later? 21 years later. She's still doing healthy, doing great. Right? Or Lee with metastatic breast cancer gone to her bones that cleared up. See these miracles happen. Right? This is really, it's something people need to do. A nutritarian diet is designed with all these features to maximize human immune function. It's a vegetable-based program, not grain-based. It's lots of healthy foods, right? We use a lot of oil and salt, and we cut out animal products, either to vegan levels or to very, very low level, and then they're based on nutrient-dense calories, and then people can really live a long time. And they're not just living longer. We're talking about their healthy life expectancy, because as they live a longer period of time, as you can see from the green curve, they're healthy living longer. What good is it to live a little longer as an American if you're sickly and you're in pain, you can't think straight, or you're having somebody to feed you, and you can't go to the bathroom by yourself? What good is living longer in a nursing home? What good is living longer if you're on dialysis? You don't know who you are. We're talking about having a great quality of life. So thank you for being here. My website, of course, drfuhrman.com. I give a lot of information out there, but I answer in my member center. I answer people's questions. We give newsletters and different protocols for treating various diseases. I'm the president of the Nutritional Research Foundation. We're doing research studies to show that we're reversing and wiping out breast cancer and other diseases. I'm doing a study at Harvard, at a Harvard Hospital, starting next month as well. And my book, Eat to Live, has actually sold more than 2 million copies, and I've sold multiple millions of copies of books, which is, I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to affect so many Americans in such a positive fashion. So thank you so much, and thank you for spreading the word about this. All right. You guys to ask a few questions? Okay, what time is it, by the way? Anybody have time?
4:20.
4:20. I'll just take 2 quick questions. Yes. All right, thanks everybody for coming. I'm going to answer just the one question then, if we don't have any more time. The question was about soy, and I'll make it very clear that unprocessed or moderately processed soy is protected against breast cancer and bone strengthening, and that even if you have cancer, it protects against breast cancer. It increases lifespan of women who have cancer. So soy is protected. The genistein and the other phytoestrogens block these estrogen stimulation of the breast tissue. So it's only the highly processed soy, meaning isolated soy protein and soy protein drinks that unfavorably raise IGF-1. Same thing with processed corn, like corn flakes or corn chips or Fritos, potato chips. It's not the same thing as eating real corn. So you can't. So yes, the moderately processed soy, like soy milk and tofu, you can eat moderately. But the soybeans the soy products that are most protective are edamame and tempeh, which are non-processed. You want to ask one quick question? Yes.
What about the whole grains like barley and quinoa and all that?
That's right. As far as grains are concerned, you want the intact whole grains to eat them. But we're not recommending people eat much brown rice today because brown rice in this country is contaminated with arsenic because they spread the chicken manure on top of the patties where they grow the rice. It's too arsenic contaminated. If you can buy rice grown in northern Minnesota and Canada that's grown wild in marshes that's clean of arsenic, it's very expensive. But so we're trying to preferentially use quinoa and canut and millet and other grains so you're not taking so much rice in your diet. Thank you very much. I'll be in the other room at my table. Looking forward to seeing you.